Jennifer Vatsa. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about a much lighter topic. I've been working a lot lately with crystal grids and crystals in my work because previously, I have a lot of crystals, not going to lie, but I like shiny things because apparently I'm a magpie, maybe, or some kind of bird, but I have a lot of crystals and I'm always like, ooh, shiny. I have some really beautiful statement pieces too and things like that, but you know, I wasn't really utilizing my crystals in any particular way. I just like shiny things. I have no excuse. But I've started working a little bit with crystal grids recently and incorporating them into various things that I'm working on, and want to go a little bit more into that today. So basically when you're working on a crystal grid, I'm going to show you some examples of different grids that I've done or that I have kind of in current workings, is that you want to pick an intention first. So, you know, if you're making a grid for money manifestation or wealth, or you want something, you can even use it for things like, you know, creativity, or I want to buy a house, or love, or anything like that. I've also experimented a little bit. I've also been experimenting a little bit with using some demonic or spirit sigils. So this is one, I'm not using it right now, but this is a sigil of Suntulak that I had on my wealth altar. So I had, you know, kind of a different crystal on each of the letters. And then I had ones over the sigil. So that's something I'm experimenting with now as well. But most of crystal grids are based on sort of sacred geometry symbols like the flower of life. You'll see different mandalas, Metatron's cube, pentagrams, you know, various hexagonal or circular ones, and things like that. So the first thing you want to do when is define that purpose of the grid. So once you've done that, now you can, I usually do a mix of intuitively picking stones, and also I have a bunch of crystal books because I have a bunch of books on everything. Or you can use that internet thing and Google, like, what are good stones associated with wealth? You know, you're going to find, you know, in that, you're getting pyrite, citrine, a lot of green stones and things like that. Sometimes I'll use like aventurine, or like a lot of green stones. Malachite's good. Hold on, I have a really beautiful piece of malachite too. This is also like crystal show and tell. So this is actually a gorgeous raw piece, a specimen of malachite. So you can see it's a rather huge piece of malachite. I paid a pretty penny for that, and there's a piece of cat fur on it. But that's something I usually keep on my wealth altar. So now you've picked your stones for this, and what you're going to then do is you know, choose an appropriate grid for it. You can print out grids. If you Google like Flower of Life grid or Metatron's cube, there's a ton of grid templates online. I'll show you some, because some places will make like woodcut grids or acrylic ones that you can, you know, use. One of the ones I have upstairs, which I'll show later, it has a hole in the center cut out, so you can put like an orb crystal in there, like a crystal ball kind of crystal in there. And I have a ton of different ones like that. So for different purposes within whatever your intention is for that grid. And the one that I'm going to show first is two grids that I did that are correlated within a new moon manifestation ritual that I started earlier this month. And we're just about at the full moon, so I'm going to be doing the releasing part of it soon. But it also incorporates my Radionics Wish Box, and you know, there was a lot of ritual elements involved because I was working with Suntulak for the manifestation. A lot of this was about removing blockages, road opener, new beginnings type of work. So and it's worked rather well. Not to toot my own horn, but this particular ritual, as I'm fine tuning it may be something that I offer as like a group ritual down the road. So that's, you know, kind of, so that's the idea. You start with intention and you pick your grid structure, and there's tons of different types of grids. They're all based on sacred geometry, or you can invent your own grid. You know, it's like if you want to do, you know, do a grid, like I said, like I did the one with Suntulak, You know, you could do, you know, pick the sigil of Lilith and make a Lilith grid or something like that. Or, you know, you don't have to use, I kind of like the structure of having the visual thing, because I'm a very visual person because I went to art school. So that's just kind of how I think. And also with my ADHD, it keeps me on point. Because otherwise I'll just be like, put all the crystals on here. Now, some people will say you should stick to, you know, a few types of crystals in your grid. And if that works for you, great. If you want to have a different one in every single area, that's fine. Some people say you end up with crystal chaos. I kind of like chaos sometimes, so hey. But so, I mean, I'm not going to get too deep into like all the stuff with crystals. I mean, you're going to find that certain color associations, like if you're working on something with your chakras, you're going to have the chakra color associations. If you're working on something, you know, love, you're going to end up with a lot more like pink and red type crystals. You're going to end up with your rubies, rhodochrosite, rose quartz, things like that. So that's a little, that'll figure into that too. And I'm not going to get too deep into the crystal stuff. But once you start setting, you've picked out your crystals and you set up your grid, you can, I mean, everyone's got their own ritual practice if you want to, you know, cleanse your space, however that works for you. I prefer like dragon's blood smoke cleansing. If I'm being lazy, I'll use like a smudge spray because I make those, or things like that to sort of clear the area in my space. Now, one of the reasons that I started working with crystals and I found myself really drawn to a lot of the high frequency or high vibration crystals is because I practice black magic. I do a lot of dark work. I needed something to balance that energetically out, especially since I do all this work in my house where I live and I also run my business and cats and etc. So I was finding myself more and more drawn to a lot of these high vibration crystals versus, you know, just your, you know, run-of-the-mill, your rose quartz, clear quartz, amethyst, things like that. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like that. I have two gorgeous pieces of Brandenburg amethyst that I am absolutely in love with. But I don't know, I like the rare ones and stuff too. I'm just like that. It's kind of a thing. I don't know. I'm a little extra. Shocking, I know. So, you know, you want to do that. Some people will cleanse their crystals before they start. Like when I have an active grid, when I'm done, because I've charged it with so much intention, like usually what I'll do after that is, you know, I'll either clear it out with selenite or do like a smoke cleanse of it. You can put them, most crystals you can put in salt, some you can in water. There's various ones for crystal safety. There's a lot of different, because not all crystals you want to put in water because they can damage, dissolve, draw out toxins and things like that. So I will do that just to kind of clear as a palette cleanser for the next time I use the crystals, because if I'm using this piece of citrine in a wealth ritual and want to use it in something entirely unrelated to that next time, I kind of want to, you know, cleanse it and then recharge it with intent. And so, you know, you'll get your grid set up. Usually at the center part of the grid, you're going to have a larger crystal, depending on the structure of it. So, and I'll show that in some of the grids that I'm working on. And, you know, there's a variety of different ways. I mean, I kind of move away from this is the method, you do it this way each and every time. I'm like, do what works for you. You want to you want to, sit there and focus and meditate and charge each one that way. Great. A lot of times, I don't have it down here, but I'll show it when I do the videos, when I do the next segment upstairs, is a lot of times I'm just grabbing a piece of quartz I have handy. Like a lot of people will use like a wand, and this can be, you can have a crystal wand, you can use a different, like an activating crystal, you can use an actual wand, whatever. The one I use upstairs is a piece of, I believe it is, I want to say either chlorite or quartz, but it was a piece, I mean, it's a pretty big piece that was or Tibetan quartz, maybe that might be what it is that it was collected, the specimen was collected from, I want to say about 7,500 feet up into the Himalayan mountains. So it's got like a very interesting vibration and energy to it. And that just kind of became, for me, that one was, it was sort of revealed to me that this is my tool of doing and activating and things like that. So I use it in that sense to put a, you know, an intention into something. So, but whatever works for you. I mean, if you want to have a full-blown ritual around it, great. If you just go, you're activated, you know, whatever works for you. That's usually my MO with things. Because stuff can get really complicated and everyone's like, oh no, this is the one true way to do it. And it's like... So, and there's different ways you can set up your crystal grids. You'll usually have your keystone and then different ones, and they're all going to have those intentions working together within it. And then you'll activate the grid, which you can do in a couple ways. Usually, you know, as part of the ritual or, you know, meditation, visualization, I use and I'll demonstrate this upstairs, I use my wand to kind of activate and connect the stones on the grid. While either meditating on or visualizing that intention or stating the purpose out loud. You know, if you're making a protection grid, it's like this, I activate this black tourmaline to protect me from, or to draw in any negative energy and protect me from harm. Yeah, something like that. So, that's just a little bit on crystal grids. And there's a lot of different ones. You could actually incorporate these. You can use, some people put grids, like, will bury them in their yards. I live in the city, so I can't really do that. And I don't want to just leave, you know, crystals sitting on my porch. But some people do that. You can do ones, currently, just as part of my protection warding in my bedroom, I have some crystals that are, like, under my mattress. So you could do, like, a bed grid, like, between, you know, like, your mattress and box spring, or you could even do... If you don't have cats, you could do it under your bed, but actually I have a platform bed, so that wouldn't work. And otherwise with cats, they would just bat the crystals everywhere because they're cats, and that's what they do. So, speaking of which, Corey is sitting right here. So I'll be back next to talk a little bit more about crystal grids and some of the stuff that I've been doing with them. So, see you in a bit. So these are a couple of the crystal grids that I've been working on. This is actually part of an almost complete ritual operation. That was a new moon manifestation working that I was doing with Suntalak this month, August 2021. And I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the crystal grids I've been working on because I decided I needed a new obsession that's also stupidly expensive and whatnot. So the first grid that I did, this one is for me, and this is using a Metatron's cube outline, or grid rather. And sorry, I'm a little shaky. I'm hand holding this. So one of the things I did also to magnify the power of each grid is I put a little mirror plate underneath each of these ones specifically. Because I like working a little bit with mirrors to amplify things and to reflect them outwards, because this was all about manifestation. So on my grid, this is one of the Suntalak charged spirit stones I do. It's a hunk of pyrite, and it's surrounded by carnelian. And then moving out, the two white stones, these ones are howlite, green aventurine, red tiger's eye, and those two are moonstone. So those are the ones I used for my grid, and I will go into kind of what the meanings are behind the crystals, because a lot of this was focused around manifestation and new beginnings. And in the center, this is a piece of Congo citrine, which actually just arrived. It's a really beautiful specimen. One of the things with citrine is that a lot of the citrine that's on the market is heat-treated amethyst or just fake. So that's just, you know, a little aside there. I've been working more with crystals lately because I had previously been on the, ooh, shiny, I just have a lot of crystals. What the F do I do with them? So I've been starting to incorporate them more into my ritual workings. And if you're familiar with my business, I also do, I use the Radionics, hold on, let me come up here, the Radionics Wish Box to charge different crystals with using the sigils. I can actually just pick up one, like, hold on. So this is the sigil I use. This is the Shamyaza one, and these are the aquamarine. So I do a process with that, and I charge them for varying lengths of time. Sometimes about a week, 5 to 7 days. Sometimes they come off lesser. It all depends. Sometimes they are, the energy that comes off of them can be very intense, especially if it's with an entity I work with a lot. Like I know, like the Abaddon ones, Lilith, and Astarte really have a strong energy field in my house. So this is a crystal grid I did for a friend of mine. And so this is actually on an agate slab. So you don't need to, you know, I like to have the little crystal grid boards like the Metatron's Cube one. I'll show a couple other ones. They're all usually based on like sacred geometry symbols. So you could literally just print them out online. I mean, there's tons of templates and things out there. Or, you know, lay out a cloth and kind of grid it out in that way as well. So this is a one I did for a friend of mine. So each one is about a different thing that they wanted to manifest in their life. So we have a clear crystal point. It's very clear. I don't know if you can see that in the center. And what do we have? This is charoite, howlite, and clear quartz. We've got another one of the Suntalak, pyrite, green aventurine, and citrine. This is charoite, labradorite, and red tiger's eye, rose quartz, amethyst, and smoky quartz. And this is petersite, garnet, and chiroprase. Sorry, this is I'm a little bit out of moving back and forth since I'm doing handheld. I'm recording this in different segments because I also have some upstairs. And I'll talk a little bit more about activating crystal grids and things like that. But next I'm going to go into kind of these two grids and what each of these means. It's like, okay, great, you put some shiny rocks on a thing and, you know, called it a day. There's a little bit more to it than that. And just for this particular ritual, I have a piece, this is a really beautiful specimen of a lemon quartz. See that? It's absolutely gorgeous. I just felt drawn to put it here. And then I have the Suntalak. I have a wooden sigil and a piece of, there's all sorts of stuff on there too, because, you know, witchcraft is messy. And that's a piece of the Suntalak pyrite that I use. So I'm going to pause here and switch it around and chat a little bit about crystal grid. The purpose of the grids that I just showed you, this was for a ritual I did with Suntalak to, like, as a road opener, obstacle remover, a little bit about wealth and things like that, like removing the blockages and stuff for this new moon cycle. So for the crystal grid that I showed you with the Metatron's Cube, so we had at the center of it was the Suntalak charged, the Radionics Spirit Stone crystals that I do. And that was to draw in wealth. So that was kind of, you know, to remove any blockages with money in my life. I have to say, Suntalak is great with that. The first ritual I did with Suntalak in May, well, actually I think it was on Walpurgisnacht. Within a month, I literally had $16,000 worth of debt erased. Awesome. Didn't have to really pay anything there. Granted, my car got totaled, and insurance paid off the rest of the loan. Would have liked my car to not get totaled, but hey, there was $8,500 I didn't have to pay out of pocket, so winning. And I also had some other things, opportunities. I had a credit card that I had in, prior to COVID, I consolidated some credit cards through an agency, and they negotiated one down that I think I owed about $12,000 on to about, I think I have to pay $3,600. So again, another like $8,000 debt I didn't have to pay. And some new business opportunities came up and things like that. So I like working with Centilloc, highly recommended. So as I was saying with that, I had the stone, the Centilloc stone in the center, and then I have some of this was a little more, for the Metatron's cube was a little more broad. So bringing in wealth. The carnelian stones were to indicate emotional balance, connections, and new opportunities. The outer ring with the green aventurine, that was for prosperity. It can be used for other things as well. The howlite, high as an ADHD person, is to stay on course, to stay on path, to keep moving in the right direction, because obviously I can get distracted by the ooh shiny of it all. And the moonstone I used because it was a new moon manifestation for new beginnings, transitions, and things like that in life. Because I do have a lot of other things coming up. So, and then the last stone that I had was the red tiger's eye, which again is for, kind of finding the purpose and new beginnings. So all those stones sort of work together around where I was feeling blockages in my life personally and professionally. And to kind of move those obstacles out of the way, to open up new opportunities and new beginnings for things. So that's kind of where I was going at with that particular grid. And the other grid that I did for someone else was each of the spokes, and I think I probably went the opposite direction when I showed it in the video. So so each of the spokes, so at the center was the clear quartz. So each of the 5, sort of, I was kind of mimicking it on like a pentagram sort of space. So the agate slab in and of itself, because I didn't have another free grid, and I didn't want to just, print out a piece of, paper or whatever. So I used an agate slab, and the agate is good for like asking for what you want, kind of from the universe. It kind of gives you that courage and stuff to speak. So, and the clear quartz point is for manifestation and connection. And the stones in the top left were labradorite, chariorite, and the red tiger's eye. And those were around defining purpose. And, looking at like the flow of energy, mental acuity, breaking, unwanted cycles, and, looking at new beginnings in that sense too for the lunar cycle. The top right was to manifest joy and happiness. So I picked rose quartz, which is associated with happiness, love, self-love, and healing energy. Amethyst, which is great for balance and, moving forward. It's a great stone to work with for building your self-esteem and self-love as well. And smoky quartz is very good for vitality, again, emotional healing, and also good for sexual energy. And the bottom right was petersite, which is good for creativity and sexuality things, or just seeing the beauty in everything, in I don't want to say love and romance, but, kind of in that broad spectrum. Garnet is for like the heart chakra, abundance, and emotional balance. And chrysoprase, again, is new beginnings and like heart chakra opening. So, and the bottom middle, I could just have said bottom, I guess, was for clarity. And again, I used chariorite, which is, for clarity, intention, new opportunities, breaking old cycles. Howlite, again, which is what I used in the Metatron's cube grid, was, keeping on the right path, helping with transitions and decision making. The clear quartz is focusing on change, intention, and manifestation. And this one, the bottom left, was sort of around the wealth magic part. And again, I used one of the Centilloc pyrite stones, green aventurine for money and prosperity, and citrine, which is good for abundance and wealth, decision making, creative problem solving, and new beginnings. So That's what I used for that's kind of how I constructed those grids. Now, those might be a little more complex than some standard ones, although I have one that's really freaking complex upstairs. But that's just kind of a little bit on how I put some of the grids I'm working on right now. I have maybe 3 upstairs. So, and I'll be coming back in a later part of this video to go over those ones, because that's an entirely different story altogether. Because I have crystals everywhere. My shinies. 3, 2, 1. So as a side note, as I've been trying to organize my crystals, so, because I have giant, jars and plates full of, well, I don't know what the fuck this is. It's a green stone. So I'm trying to go through and figure out what that is and organize things, because a lot of times when I'm making a grid, I'll be like, oh, I need some labradorite. And then I'm like, fuck, do I have any labradorite? I don't know. I buy more labradorite. I often sometimes end up with a lot of things just because I can't find them, or I don't know I have them. It's very true for herbs as well, and essential oils, given, but I do use those in business and things like that. So, but yeah, I have a lot of crystals, a lot of interesting, I still have a bowl of ones I need to identify, because sometimes it's really hard. Like, I mean, depending on the color stuff, if you have a piece of polished black tourmaline, obsidian, onyx, or jet, good luck figuring out which one is which, because or shungite as well. So I really I'm trying to keep those things a little more organized in my life. Haha, organization for an ADHD witch. It's a thing. But anyways, I'll be back in another segment to talk about my upstairs crystal grids. So we're now upstairs, and this is my sort of dark goddess and Lucifer altar setup. I'm eventually going to set up a dedicated ritual room, because right now I have altars literally all over my house and it's driving me crazy. But I want to show you the 3 grids that I have up here. Hold on. I'll go over to this one, so we're going to go boop. So this is a protection grid I did for someone, and at the center, sorry, it's a little dark. Let me come over here so I'm not standing directly in the light. So at the center of the grid is a black tourmaline orb. Now beneath the grid I have a picture. I have a spirit sigil and a picture of the person that I'm doing the protection for. So we have the black tourmaline orb at the center. This is, I don't know if you can see it well, the piece in front of it, also in the center, is a piece of spiderweb jasper, which I charged on my Radionics box with the sigil of Azraludu, who is someone I work with for protection. And the main spokes these are all more black tourmaline. They're rough pieces. And I have little, because I only had carnelian hearts to spare for this one, so I used the little, I think they're carnelian and agate hearts. There's like a mix of them. And then these are the Lemurian seed crystals. And I believe this is a Flower of Life one. Crystal grid. So this is a pretty large grid. This is on like a little side table. If you do get ones that are wood cut, you can get them in different sizes. These two, this and the other one I'm going to show are larger. I have an acrylic grid, which is a little bit smaller. So you can get them at different diameters. Yes. Or circumferences. I don't know. Geometry was, oddly enough, not something I was particularly good at. So, okay. So now we're back to my Lucifer altar. So the grid I have on here, and I have some other crystals as well. So I have a very large piece, a really pretty rose quartz piece. I also have a rose quartz orb up there. I just ran out of orb holders, so it's sitting in a howlite bowl. So in this particular grid, we've got the central piece, which is rose quartz, and I have 2 little rose quartz tumbles. Snowflake obsidian, and these are the outside. Chiroprase, rhodochrosite, I think, or rhodonite. I will have to look. There are also some, I think these are rhodonite or rhodochrosite as well, as is the little heart. Some rubies, tumbled infinite, and petersite in this particular grid. And I also have some other crystals on here. I think this is pink. I'm going to say pink opal. I could be wrong. But this one, I think, sort of like restoration, new beginnings, something like that. So I use that one sometime. I think I actually may have had that there at some point. I've been switching out the central crystals, and I have some smoky quartz. I don't know if you can see it, but these are really pretty pieces of smoky quartz. I'm a smoky quartz hoe. And my little Venus bust, because Lucifer is associated with Venus. And I think that's all that's on this one. And I will go try to go a little bit in a separate segment on you know, the different meanings behind, you know, like what this grid was. So this particular grid, because a lot of my work with Lucifer, oddly enough, is about love, self-love, emotional healing, healing from relationships, and things like that. So that's kind of what the gist of this particular grid was. Right. So now the last grid I have up here, which is my most complex grid. Now this one is, let me show you underneath. This is hooked up to the Radionics Chakra Box. So I currently have this set on the third eye or brow chakra, and I believe it's set to purple or violet. So this one was kind of about, developing psychic skills and for like astral travel and things like that. So, I'm just gonna, hold on, grab my camera a little better here. So now what I was talking about earlier, this is the, piece of, I think, Tibetan quartz that I use as the wand to activate my crystals. It's a really amazing piece. I use that a lot. I also like these little windowed, sometimes they call them seer stones. I can't really, it's better, maybe light. So it's like windowed quartz. You can also get like windowed rose quartz or amethyst as well. Those are just ones I kind of use in general. So let's look at the grid. So I used a standard pentagram layout for this, and this is hooked up. It's on a copper plate, because if you look underneath, so that's the input. So the copper plate kind of represents the input of what you're putting the energy into, and the output plate, which is right here, is I have a picture of myself. I'll show you a really pretty piece of clear quartz. And the Shamyaza's master key. So that's all on a picture of me. So each of the stones on here is kind of, most of these are really high frequency, high vibration stones to help in psychic development, astral travel, spirit communication, things like that. So I'm going to try to go from the center out. So at the center I have apophyllite, and also at each of the points here is apophyllite as well. And I have a very tiny star ruby. That's more like a gem quality star ruby, and diopsode right here. And there's two pieces of moldavite. Going out from there are raw Herkimer diamonds. And then each of the points, oops, spinning them around. Each of the points are indigo gabbro, and then within that and in the circle, I'll kind of go over each one. So again, at the top I have one of the windowed quartz seer stones. This is prehenite, I believe. I'm gonna have to look, because I get some of them mixed up. I know that's jade, celestite, azurite. I think that is astrophyllite, or I'm not sure. I'll have to look at what those two are, because I get them mixed up. I think one might be seraphinite or astrophyllite. This one is iolite, which I was calling the lowlight for a very long time. Here we go. Spirit quartz, spirit amethyst, fulgurite. And then we have at the top is amazonite. This is a really I'm just want to kind of show you a little bit. It's a really pretty piece, let me get better light, of wolfenite with lemonite in it. And that's more for like exploring like your shadow self and darker side. This is spirit quartz, and I think this is a piece of, and this one's a piece of Vesuvinite. And these are all little Lemurian quartz pieces. So that's kind of what I have there. I've had this one running probably for about a month now. So that's one that I use because this is, I'm in my bedroom, so this is actually right by my bed. I'm going to try to find a better location for it because, so much to my surprise, I have not knocked it over, nor have the cats. Shocking, I know. So I'm going to be back in a minute to kind of talk a little bit more about these different crystal grids. 2, 1. Not used to having so much available light because I usually make my videos in the middle of the night, but there's this whole daylight thing happening. It's very weird. Anyways, so I had to track down where I had written what is on the pentagram crystal grid, which apparently is in a Facebook post because I started in a book and it landed in a Facebook post because ADHD is great, but at least I found it. So, yeah, as I was trying to figure out the two, so, okay. So I was right. This one is astrophyllite, and the outer one, seraphinite. Oh, I think I was right. Woohoo, go me. I remembered something. Fucking hell, man. But actually, with a little minor detail, I forgot it. I have this suspended on a pizza tray holder. So it's like a circular tray thing because that was able, so I could, yeah, levels. I'm at the point in my life where I need levels on things. So, yeah, so I've had this one going, yeah, since about the end of July at some point. But, Corey's over here knocking things over. So that's one I've been working with for psychic development and things like that. And I think it's one of those subtle things that's just kind of going in the background, but I have noticed some subtle changes and stuff. And every once in a while I'll tinker with the Radionics box part of it to yeah, tap into the different frequencies and stuff like that. I may actually kind of retune it, like do a full recalibration about it. Yes, Corey. At some point, just to see how it's working. And since I mentioned it earlier, I don't know how well it's going to show up with the light, but these are my little Brandenburg. I have 2 of them. My Brandenburg amethyst. I'm not really a huge fan of amethyst, but these ones are just absolutely stunning. They've got a little bit of translucency to it, but the purple is so dark. And I absolutely love, these are 2 pieces. I use these a lot to meditate. And I also have a really lovely chunk of apophyllite, which is like my new favorite thing ever. It's common to get like a new favorite thing crystal. This is one that's really good for, I kind of like the shape of it because I can kind of hold it in my hand kind of naturally, although it is a little pointy and jagged. So that was a little bit of, I just want to give you a little tour of my crystal grids and things like that. I have lots of shiny things around my house. I like working with them. I do find, you know, incorporating them into different rituals. And what's interesting too is, I know a lot of times crystals get kind of thrown into the love and light woo-woo kind of aspect of witchcraft and whatnot. And that, you know, we use them on the left-hand path and in black magic just in different ways. You know, it's sort of like, I use black tourmaline for protection for myself, but you can also fuck someone up pretty bad with black tourmaline, you know, because it can be used in that way. And the same thing with a lot of herbs is like something that's very protective for you can be used against someone in a baneful practice. So I'm just kind of looking at ways to incorporate different aspects of magic using different magical tools and whatnot and incorporating them into my practice, my magic, and my daily life. I like meditating with crystals sometimes. Like I usually describe it like a lot of times people will be like, oh my God, feel this crystal. It's the vibration and the it's so magical. I'm like, hold up. I have a very strong energy field, so a lot of times I have to kind of clear that out of the way before I feel anything. Because a lot of times people are like, oh, your products have such amazing energy to it, or, you know, feel this, can't you feel the vibration and the blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, hold on. No, I actually can't, because it takes a lot to get through my own natural energy, which is probably why my products have such a great energy to them. But it also sometimes makes me hard. Like and also, hi, ADHD, I think I probably mentioned that. Makes it a little hard sometimes for me to be like, okay, Crystal, let's see what you got in you. You know, what am I getting from you? And that sort of thing, to really kind of peel away and focus in and concentrate on it. So that's why I use crystals in meditation sometimes. I have a lot of like palm stones, or sometimes I put them under my pillow or on my headboard, and I've got all this crazy shit going on. So there's a lot of different ways you can incorporate crystals or crystal grids into your magical practice. And it doesn't have to be all woo-woo, love and light, and for the love of God, don't stick them in your hoo-ha. I have to say that about everything, but, you know, I know Yanni eggs are a thing, and, you know, I feel like half my life is just, please don't put that in your, no, it doesn't go in your butt. No, come on. Because one important thing with crystals, and like anything natural, is that sometimes they have not so great properties, actually. Crystals can leach, is that the right word, leach? Things like heavy metals that are toxic, or things like arsenic, or sulfur, or stuff like that. You don't want to put that inside you! I mean, there are some crystals that are safer, because I know, like, crystal gem elixirs are a thing. Like, people put, like, you know, some rocks in their water and, you know, drink the good vibes and stuff. And I'm not quite at that point yet. I know in my, sort of jumping ships a little bit, one of the things I also want to mention, too, is that over the course of this year, I have been doing my Reiki certifications, and I'm just about like a week or two away from finishing up my Reiki Mastery certification. And along the line in there, I took a little bit of a break and did a Crystal Reiki certification as well, because a lot of that you can incorporate together you know, in your practice. And I like doing a lot of energy work, especially with the type of magic and the entities that I work with. Sometimes you just got to kind of, you know, cleanse that shit off of you, and being able to tap into that universal energy and use it to, you know, self-Reiki, or, you know, add that. Using the Reiki for me, I can also kind of add that energy, because there is a whole field of crystal Reiki, and using crystals within your Reiki sessions and stuff. I think it's a little weird to have like an amethyst on your forehead and, you know, something on your chest, but hey, whatever works for you. You know, you can also, while on the subject of grids, is sometimes people will grid around themselves. Like if you're laying on the floor, like on a yoga mat or something, you know, you could put like the chakra crystals down you or around you or something like that. And you could kind of become your own grid in that sense. But one of the things that kind of fascinates me, and this kind of is across the board, whether I'm working with herbs or crystals or essential oils, fragrances, whatnot, is I'm kind of a nerd about things. I wasn't like a science nerd in school. I wasn't actually particularly good at science because math is hard. But I do like to have a good understanding of like the actual science behind things, to understand how they work. And sometimes I can't always explain it. Like, I don't know how to explain how Reiki works. It's just energy and things and flow, and it just works. Just trust me, the thing. But I like to understand the science behind, like, you know, different botanical constitutions and why they work the way they do, or why one crystal is good for this and one's good for that, and, you know, and kind of understanding how all that works together. Because, I mean, I always say, like, magic comes down to sort of the manipulation, or to three things. It's energy, frequency, and vibration. And, you know, whatever you're doing, you're tapping into that in some way. And I think that we are really kind of, I'm excited, especially with using like the Radionics box and things like that, about the different integration of technology into magic. Because like something like mirror magic's been used for years. Well, what do you need for that? A black mirror. Your phone, when it's not on, can work as a reflective surface that you could do mirror magic in, you know? So it's kind of thinking a little bit outside the box, outside of the traditional rubric of witchcraft. So Anyways, I know this video has probably gotten a little long and I've had to do multiple segments and jumping around and all that. So anyways, don't forget to click like and subscribe, and I'll put some links below to like the Radionics boxes and things like that. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to y'all later. Bye!